Hello, folks. Welcome to El Canal Channel Jose. Today we got a topic about the dash fuel gauge not reading correctly. Where every time you fill up your tank, is reading 3/4 or half a tank, and you know that that nozzle popped because it's full, but the reading on the dash is not giving you a full tank on the reading, but it's always giving you half tank every single time. And after it gets to half a tank, and then the level starts going down, then it starts reading once it reaches that level, and then it starts going lower and it starts reading correctly. So the problem might be in your gas tank, and is the floater or the indicator for the fuel level, but in the tank, not on the gauge. But today we got the indicator or the sending unit from a 91 to 99 Toyota Tercel or 92 to 99 Toyota Paseo. So we're gonna show you what you have to look or what you can do to try to investigate what's going on, if it's really the indicator on the sending unit or your gauge. But most commonly it might be your sending unit. And with that, let's get started. So now every time you fill up your gas tank, it's always reading half a tank, half a tank, half a tank. So once it reaches, you use half a tank and it starts reading this other part, then it starts working because it starts dropping, but it never goes beyond half a tank. So the problem might not be this. The problem is on the floater or the sending unit. So today we have a full sending unit with a fuel pump and a strainer and the fuel level gauge indicator on the tank and all the connectors and everything. And we're gonna give a little explanation about this. This is the strainer. This is the first filter where the fuel gets filtered before it goes into the fuel pump for the bigger particles, and it goes through the fuel pump and it gets sent out to the engine, and it comes through this tube and it goes to the engine. And then this other tube gets the fuel back. Once the regulator regulates the pressure on the engine, the excess of pressure gets sent back and it ends up in the tank. So there's always the same pressure at the engine, so the fuel system works properly. So going to the engine, coming back from the engine. This is for the vapors. This is helping the tank from expanding and all that. So it creates pressure. This guy takes care of those vapors. So that's on the fuel side. And there's some wires here for the fuel pump and sending power and all that. And now we're talking about, we're concentrating on the sending unit. So this is sending a this is the actual gauge that sends the signal to the gauge on the dash. So here will be full. As the fuel comes up, it makes this floater float. So this leg is inside here with a mechanism. So it comes up and then it's full, about halfway is right there, and about empty right there. So depends on where the level this floater is, that will be the indicator. But sometimes people have a full tank, but they're not reading full tank here. So what can go wrong, or what's causing this problem? So we're gonna expose this area to show you what we're talking about on this mechanism. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna separate the floater sending unit or the signal from the actual sending unit housing. So we're gonna take that Phillips screwdriver and that one, so we can separate just the floater side out of the way, so we can start taking it apart so we can get in there. Don't lose those screws because you gotta use them to put it back in. You don't want to use longer ones because you're gonna penetrate the internals. So it's just save these. Watch out where you put these. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to straighten this leg right here and this other little sheet metal leg right here and this one. So there's three of them. We want to lift them and straighten it out so we can split this sheet metal from this other sheet metal, so we can split both of them so we can start exposing the internal of where this is working. So now that we have straining those sheet metal pieces, we can split it. Careful. And you're not going to be able to split them all the way because these cables are attached to this other cover. But what we want to see, we want to see this area. This is the float leg going to the float, and as the float moves up and down, that'll be full, that'll be empty. So depending on the position, but sometimes there's a break on these little wires that there is a resistance that it won't send any signal uh, because there's a bad reading on it. So it's not reading any of that stuff. So this is the most common problem where the gauge is not going to read anything. So if you take it apart and you see a problem here, or it's just a cover and gunk and all that, is because it's not reading. So you can probably just clean it real careful because these are really fine wires, copper wires. So you don't want to damage it more than they are, but you can do a little cleaning with a little soft toothbrush or something, just careful, slowly. And that's usually the problem. This is one wire and this is the other. So as it reads through, is reading ohms. So this is what sends the signal to the dash. So now what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna grab like a toothbrush and we're gonna clean slowly a little bit of that coating that it has built under where this sheet metal, the copper piece slides right on it. So that way we can probably clean it, and that will probably take care of the problem. Or we're probably gonna use this stainless steel wire brush slowly and clean the copper. Now that we have cleaned it, and one thing we want to say, we use the wire brush slowly and we clean it up and down like this with the copper with the copper wires. So once we clean it and we got a little shiny, don't lift this sheet metal or this copper. So just move it out of the way, clean this side, move it to that side, clean this side. Don't lift it and try to clean underneath because you're gonna bend it and that's not gonna be good. So just clean the resistance, clean it right here where it touches, as you can see right there, the highest point. And don't worry about the copper, it'll be okay. It'll clean itself as it's sliding over those copper wires. So once we have done this, we can put it back together, and hopefully this will help you on getting a better reading on your gas gauge on the dash. That way you don't have to spend a lot of money on buying a new sending unit when it could be something done like this, because this is a maintenance that you can do to see if you don't have to buy a new sending unit that is not giving you a right reading. So now that we have done the cleaning and the maintenance to this sending unit, or for the fuel gauge level, we can put it back together, and we can make sure that we don't uh, uh, rip this or tear these wires, so we don't want to damage them. So we put two shelves together. We make sure those wires are out of the way, so we can start putting all these structure together, so we can have put it back into the tank and see if that took care of the problem. So now we got our fuel pump and the floater with the sending unit for the signal on our dash back together. We put it back together on the shelf and we screw it on with the two little screws. and now we got the sending unit working. So now before you start putting everything on the gas tank, just connect it to your harness and have a second person in that by the dash looking when they open the key and see if the fuel sending unit is sending the correct reading to the gauge on the dash, and if the gauge in the dash is going up when you have it lifted like as a full, or when it's down as a empty and gradually lifted slowly. So it might take some time for the gauge to start reading to pick up and keep up with the level. So if you go like this quick and it doesn't change quick, give it some time. So it might take some time for the gauge to come up because the older technology. But if this and then if this works, then now you don't have to buy a brand new sending unit because you fix it yourself by just doing a simple cleaning. And well, folks, we wanted to expose this info because it can be useful for some of our folks who are watching this our video, and sometimes this basic maintenance can be done to some of the sending units because they're actually made to that you can take them apart and clean them and put them back together. Some other units are actually really hard because they're plastic and they're just glued together and you're not going to be able to take them apart. But in the most part, for older models, you can actually take them apart and look in there and see if there's anything wrong, or give them a little cleaning, and hopefully that takes care of the problem. So with that said, folks, hopefully this video was useful. For our folks who are watching the video and haven't subscribed to our channel, please subscribe. If you like our video, give us thumbs up, share it, and we'll see you soon with more videos here in our canal, Chano Jose.